the operational director of our club, how do you see the USL, both women's and men's side, really fit into the fabric of what we do?
Well, obviously, it's the capstone programming that we've offered, but in addition to it, we've been able to bring forth the USL Academy for the men's and the women's this year. The men's are now 2 years ahead of the women's program, but we're able to offer equity in our services and our opportunities for player development and programming. But also the USL2 and the USLW allows us to bring back our former players to give them an opportunity to develop during the summer months so that they're continuing their pathway as they get ready for their next year in collegiate participation and competition.
Yeah, no, I love it. And then from the other side of it, just on the player side and thinking about it from a technical director standpoint and player development, we can really start to use our younger players to play up, and have a 16-year-old play with a 20-year-old, get those experiences during the summertime, right? Really focus in on being developers both on and off the field, right? Because that experience off the field for a young lady or a gentleman with the USL2 or the W League is really going to start shaping the way they train, right? The mindset, the mentality of what we do. So for us, USL platform has really been a place to continue our development model overall. It's not just a business endeavor where we have fans come in. We actually are trying to label our fans as supporters, because we want them to start having a culture that comes around that. And how does that USL then matriculate down into the club and vice versa? How does the club youth perspective start to migrate up? Like you said, having our former players come back and play and have a place to continue their development. And personally, as a sporting director, I'm hoping that it sets that platform, and it's already doing that, for players to go on and play professional soccer, right? It's a pre-professional pathway for our women to get exposure, our men to get exposure. And it's really important when you're moving to that level to have what we call senior games, right? So young people playing against older players. That's a measurable thing when you speak to an agent, when you speak to another club abroad. They want to know how you match up with someone that's 4 or 5 years your senior, right? Because that's ultimately what we're doing. So we're hoping that the USL doesn't just shape, fan support and just another thing that's out there that the Force does, but we start to educate our market through it, helping them understand that, you always want to be really good in your own age group. You have like a 10-year-old, 11-year-old, I'm a superstar. But at the end of the day, when you get to the college level or the high school level or the pro level, as a freshman, you got to compete against seniors, right? As a freshman again in college, you got to compete against seniors. If you ever want to be a pro, you got to remember the rest of the world starts their professional careers around what? 16 through 18?
Correct.
Right? Here in the States, you're going to college. So we're just trying to do our part as Force to say, hey, this USL asset was brought, one, to hopefully be a capstone for Cleveland, all the teams, all the people, not just Cleveland Force, but one of the best testimonials is we have a lot of young men right now and ladies that played at other clubs. I think we have some ladies that represented internationals. Soccer club that are currently in our W League.
Cleveland
FC as well. With the men, I'll give a shout out to Mr. Cesar right now. He's done an amazing job for us on the USL2 platform. He played for, I believe, Upper 90 or North as he was kind of coming through, that family there, which also originated inside of Cleveland United. Right, so there's a lot of USL is just a big piece for Force to show their humility that, hey, we're open and respectful to everybody. We want it to be a development model place, and as you said, organizationally, it's a capstone to what we do.
Yeah, and to add to that, the USL saying is, if you're old enough, you're good enough. Right. So when you look at what we're able to offer to start this season out of design, especially on our women's side, we're a young team. We're a very young team, predominantly freshmen in college going into their sophomore year.
True.
So, you look at the roster, we've already played 4 or 5 games, and of 2 of those games, I believe, we've had teenage players in it. Yep. We've had an 07 come into a match and play. We've had an 06 come in a match and play. And that's exactly it, is giving our young players the opportunity to push themselves and to really learn about the game at a senior level. So that's the first piece. On the men's side, I know just recently we had a USL Academy player who I believe is an under 17.
Correct.
Who stepped into a USL2 match.
Yep.
So, the system's working. Also on the men's side, we're playing younger players, but yet we're sitting in second place in the standings in the league right now, halfway into the season so far. So, it's working, and it's essentially what we envisioned that would occur in the platform, is giving young players an opportunity to develop experience and ultimately, show us that they're capable of moving forward and pursuing more.
Yeah.
So, Everett, you talked about young players in Europe getting opportunities to play in professional settings, be it first team or second team. What are your thoughts on what we can be doing here differently, not just in our market, but what does Cleveland Force do, and what should be occurring in the United States to help progress the game into the professional ranks into the future?
Yeah, I'll start with the bigger picture, right? The macro view of us as a country, and I think actually, proud to say, like I think we're doing it right now, right? It's just not at a massive scale like you see in the European or South American, and even to some degree some African markets, right, where young players are seen as the potential, the next step. You know, everyone wants to really invest in that young talent, right? And I think what you see happening in the MLS Next, right, with the MLS Next clubs, investing back into their youth academies and giving these young players an opportunity. We're blessed to be able to have a footprint in the USL, to give young players an opportunity to play with senior level talent, right? So now we're creating this culture in the United States where we're changing and shifting a paradigm where everybody thought like, hey, to be a pro, you got to go through college and then you got to go through, which is our typical American process, right? College football, basketball, but even they've trended to say, hey, we need to do this a little bit differently, right? The NFL has a one and done, I believe, rule, or 2 years you have to go. Basketball is the same. Soccer, obviously, we're a lot different, right? We have young players now in the USL signing pro contracts with the first teams at the age of 16, 17, 18, giving these young players the opportunity to really get involved in the game at a more holistic approach, right? Both on and off the field. So I think as a country, we're starting to make the right decisions in very small pockets to help initiate player development and give those young players an opportunity. Can we be better at it? Absolutely, right? But I think that's where in the more domestic market with Cleveland Forest, we've taken on that responsibility, I think, to be the club that takes on all that comes with that. Right? There's a financial piece that comes with it. There's a coaching, education piece that comes with it. There's a development side that comes with it. So for us, looking at the bigger picture and seeing that that's what young players need, and seeing that we've had players come through Cleveland for many years at that age of 16, 17, 18, 19 that could potentially be pros, but they didn't have that environment, right? We didn't have a capstone program like the USL provides us to really give those kids a chance to go, like, what does the game look like at the senior level, right? What is it like to play against a man, right? What is it like to play a woman, right? How do they approach the game as they do those things? So even in the short term, Marco, I think hearing our players' feedback already, right? We played just recently on the W League side. The back line had 2 or 3 ladies that were 28 to 30 in the back line, right? And they're going against a 19-year-old at the end of the day. And you can see how vibrant the little 19-year-old was, just running around, trying to make something happen. And they did. They created moments, right? But you could also see the defender that's a little more experienced, realizing, like, that's not really a threat, right? They're running over on the side, and they're all excited. And the 29-year-old's like, all right, you go do your thing over there, right? But the conversations after the game, when you reflect with those players and then bring that up on film, they kind of go, oh, it's like an aha moment for this young player. Right. And then you just see them continue to progress after that has been really exciting for us. So I think for us, we've taken on that responsibility of creating a space, but then also being what you say, innovative enough to say, let's take advantage of the space. Right. Give a 16-year-old a chance to go and play, not be focused on winning all the time. Right. Because like you said, we're a very young team. Right. I think a part of our culture is about creating respect and integrity and that passion for the game. I think that goes into the whole concept of saying, like, hey, we've committed to this platform for development first, but our development will lead to results over time. So I think what Force has done in the short term is lived our values, really lived our values and taken on an asset that I think provides an opportunity for kids that have a passion to play the game at the highest level possible, or at least try to, give it a whirl, see what it feels like.
Part of that, too, that some people may not know is that there have been 2 players in our system that are youth players, one in Jack, the second being Hannah, that have gone overseas, that you've personally sent overseas to go on trial, where those players now are in the pipeline to get into these senior games for us with USL and W League. Anything you want to talk about that for folks that aren't really in the know and don't understand really the behind-the-scenes player advancement that we're working on?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the piece that I would leave everyone to think about when it comes to player advancement and opportunity is, one, you got to be willing to walk through the door, right? You got to be willing to say, hey, can I take this risk and leave my comfort zone and go overseas, right? So what we've been doing behind the scenes is really trying to profile our players to see both the family and the player have the personality and desire to go overseas, right? Then as a club, we work with our connections, relationships, to provide players an opportunity, especially in Spain, Germany. Those are the two easiest entry points for everybody right now as far as an American is concerned. If you have a dual passport, hey,
Get in anywhere.
yeah, you can get in just about anywhere, right? Of course, you got to be able to play. So yeah, Hannah and Jack have had a chance to go over, played at Getafe. They're in the pipeline where we now keep track of them. One of the things too, tidbit would be, don't feel the process happens overnight, right? Because they both have gone over fairly early in their development. Hannah being a 2007, Jack being a 2006 birth year. They have to continue to do the work now, right? They got to come back and have a space that Force is providing where Jack plays with the 19s. Hannah just went to the USL Academy Cup with our 19s group down to Florida.
Made the top 11.
Made the top 11.
As the youngest player.
Right. You know, she just played in the national selection game in the ECNL side. You know,
Killed
so
it over there. Did
killed
great
it.
again.
Right. So now all of a sudden you have these young players that are coming through the system that are benefiting from the whole system. Right. So having their ability to play up on a regular basis, getting those exposures. Now people are kind of like, oh, this kid can play a little bit. So behind the scenes, the organization works really hard to, one, open the door, and then identify the players that have the personality, because it's a big trip to go overseas and be in an uncomfortable space. I actually remember Hannah sharing one story of just like not really knowing the language, right? But universal language is football,
Yeah, put
right?
the ball on the field.
That's it. After a while, the players realize, hey, this kid can play. They could play, and everyone starts to really enjoy each other's company, and it starts to become more symbiotic. So yeah, we try and work really hard to find the right personality that goes with everything as well. So yeah, we're working really hard to just kind of create that path, and we're also realistic, right? What is Force with all this? Look, we're not sitting here telling you we're going to have 15 to 20 pros coming out of this, right? But I do think it's important for families to understand, like, hey, let's set the standard high, right? Because everybody benefits from that.
You got to make your one.
Yeah.
Make one pro,
Yep.
and that permeates to the next kid thinking, I can do that too.
Yes, sir.
And it's contagious.
Yeah.
And that's our objective right now. Make one pro.
Yeah, make one, and also create a culture that celebrates others, right? I think here in the States, we don't do that enough. There's a lot of celebration with social media and all this other stuff. You promote yourself, right? What is that, NAIL, right? Everyone has something that they want to talk about there. But also a culture where, like, hey, I played with Jack. You know, I played with Hannah. You and I probably have stories like that.
Absolutely.
Right? Players we play with that are now either in MLS or holding executive positions or coaching. Like, those are the things that we hope Force can provide families, not to just look at their own kid, but what opportunity from that relationship might come as a result of playing next to and building that relationship.
Well, not every kid can become a pro.
Exactly.
The very few that do that 100th of a percentile, you have to be proud that you were part of that kid's journey, right? From a coach, from a teammate, from a parent who was peer-to-peer with that child's parent, right? It takes a big group to support one person getting through. So it's unique when one person does hit that. As you look at not just the international side of it, you and I were sitting recently watching the USL 2 game up in the stands.
Yes.
And we're watching it, and what are you seeing from your technical seat? What are you seeing that as we roll out a young team, what are we seeing in these formative years of us starting these two franchises at the USL 2 and the W League side that our teams probably need to gain a little bit more from, or to develop within that platform to make us a little bit more consistently competitive to hopefully win championships on both the men's and women's side?
Yeah, I think you almost, not just USL, Marko, but I think all the way through, right? Even the young kids. I think where you're going is that gamemanship, right? Gamesmanship.
Absolutely.
Right? It's been so interesting. This USL platform has opened up so many different avenues for me as a technical director, right? The way you position that conversation just now. Yeah, I was looking at it through my technical director's lens and saying, hey, what's missing at this level that we can improve on? What is missing at this level that we can get better at? So simple as this. You're in a game, you're winning, right? You're ahead, and it's tight, 2-1, and you got to figure out a way to scrap for another 20, 30 minutes, and it's hot out, whatever the case may be. You go down with a cramp, and you're on the field, right?
Stay on the field.
Stay on the field.
When you got the lead.
Right.
Yes.
As a soccer person, we're in the stands like pulling our hair out like, oh my gosh. And we were really blessed to be sitting next to DeMarcus Beasley.
Absolutely.
Who just got inducted into the Hall of Fame. He's a part of the USL, right? What an amazing experience for these kids too, right? We're playing against DeMarcus Beasley's team, who's investing in this, but the three of us are in the stands all saying the same thing. Stay on the field, right? Understand that those couple seconds could be a result for you,
correct,
right? But instead, we're young and we're naive still, and he was so polite. Such a nice suburban kid.
He is a gentleman.
He's such a gentleman. He rolled off the field so nicely, didn't he?
He was really nice to the opponent.
Yeah, such a kind young man. I think even the ref was caught off guard by the fact that he rolled off the field. He did like a double.
Yeah.
He's like, whoa, he's on the side. Okay, yeah, let's play, everybody. So no, just gamesmanship, Marko. You're right. But that comes with being around senior players, right?
And that's the issue on the women's side. We have a young team. They're not comfortable holding each other accountable in a productive and professional manner, and they're learning that still.
Absolutely.
Right? They're still very naive when it comes to how to manage the game.
Yep.
And it's ultimately showing. They've been playing better and better and better as the season's gone on, which is to be expected.
Yep.
But they are not able to finish games because they just are lacking a little bit of that experience.
That's it.
And that confidence.
That is it. Yeah. And we hope it, I covered one of the W League games, and the biggest message was, I hope you take these lessons back to your college environment. That's really important for them to know this isn't about force wanting to win everything. This is about, hey, let's provide a space for you to grow and learn. And that gamesmanship, game understanding is really important, because I think there's different levels to it. And that's actually impacted our internal curriculum with the youth as well. Now the staff is meeting and talking about at what stage do we want to start to nurture what level of gamesmanship. Right? The simplest things is going to the corner, right? Something might seem trivial to a lot of us as footballers, right? Where there's 3 minutes left in the game, you're up by 1, go by the corner flag and shield the ball, right? We just saw Man City and Manchester United do it the other day.
Don't bring that up. Why you got to bring
I'm
that
sorry,
up
man. It happens,
Don't do that.
At least you guys were in the game, right?
It's true. Arsenal was at home having a pina colada.
It's okay. We finished in second. We're working our way up little by little. But all that to say this, gamesmanship, game understanding, the nuances of it. You could take that even to the bigger picture, right? Here in the States, it's not a common conversation with our kids, in the football space.
It's not a footballing culture yet.
Exactly, right? So anything we can do on a very small scale to influence that, that's what excited me. As much as I was going nuts and pulling my hair out and getting more gray hair, like, come on, I want to win this game. It was really cool to have that epiphany and go, all right, how do we change this and manifest this into some learning? And as you know, I'm kind of crazy on data, because now I got to figure out, how do I measure today and say, are we better at it in the future? Right? There's got to be some sort of measurable there to help these young men and women get a little bit better at the game from that side.
I think you mentioned it. As much as we want to win, we realize what we've done in the roster composition isn't built to win. Mm-hmm. It's built to develop. Mm-hmm. It's built to give back to those kids that have come from our system first and foremost, kids of Cleveland.
Absolutely.
Not just our system, but Northeast Ohio system between all the clubs. Mm-hmm. That's the first piece. The second piece to it is also giving an opportunity to these young players as well, these teenage kids that are sophomores, juniors, rising seniors into high school, to give them an opportunity to experience a new level. I remember Elizabeth, one of our 07, steps in, and she's like, that was an amazing experience. The kid's still smiling today, and it's been almost a month, and she's still thinking about it, still being motivated by that opportunity. So, where other people are maybe looking at us as a big club in the market to say, well, they're not winning. Well, it's not designed for winning. It's designed for player development. It's designed for one of these young kids in 3 to 4 years of being in this senior environment to potentially have enough talent and grit and experience and savviness and gamesmanship to make it to the next level.
Correct.
So, other maybe senior teams in the market, and there are some really good ones in our market that predate us by many years. Mm-hmm. They're going out there to win, and rightfully so. That is their purpose, and that is their focus. But for us, winning will be a byproduct, just like it is in our youth system, by doing the right things. And then when it clicks, then it's sustained winning year over year.
Totally agree. Yeah, very excited about it.